Liam says, what's the sexiest lead source? To me, when I think sexiest, I think that in a couple different ways. One would probably be the fastest way to get a deal, which is the people with the most amount of pain, right? The most amount of pain that you can then go and solve that problem for. And I would say that's probably going to be pre-foreclosure. So if you don't have a big budget and you can only work on certain types of lists, if I needed to get a deal and I had to get it from marketing and it wasn't like a joint venture deal, I would be going right after pre-foreclosures because their hand is raised that I have financial difficulties. I'm not paying my mortgage. There are things going on in my life that are causing me to not pay my mortgage and I need help. Probably. That is why I would go after pre-foreclosures. Probates are great, but they can take some time because there's like court stuff going on. There's multiple family members usually involved in those that you're working through. Those can be great. For like bread and butter, one of the favorite lists for us are, 55 plus absentee owners. I like 55 plus because typically in Arizona, for example, there's a lot of people there. It's their second homes, or people, when they're 55 plus, they're retiring. So they might be moving somewhere else. When they're 55 plus, they might be selling a second home in the area. And, a lot of people are snowbirds in Arizona. So we get a lot of snowbird properties. We built the avatar around like our favorite seller. The favorite seller that we buy from is typically somebody that's, 55 plus. Number one, they've owned the property for typically 10 or more years. So they've owned the property for a while. So 10 or more years, they probably have a lot of equity in the property. And then third is they're absentee, meaning it's a second home. It's an investment home. So they don't have, maybe as much emotional attachment to the property. And the reason that I like those sellers a lot is because they're typically some of the more reasonable ones because they're not living in it. They don't think it's the next best thing since sliced bread. They're, people that are living in their homes and selling it to you. They always think it's better than everyone else's. When it's a secondary home or it's an investment home and they've owned it for a long time and they're older, what we find is there's a good amount of those sellers that like convenience selling. Not where you have to go and, bang them over the head and try to get this killer deal for 50 cents on the dollar. Like, for example, we have a deal that the guy he was older. He had stuff in the house. Like it was his second home. He lived in Minnesota, stay in Minnesota during the summers, come down to Arizona in the winters. Now he's older. He's like in his 80s and he's just like, I'm just not going to come down there that much anymore. And I don't want to list it and go through the hassle of like cleaning out the stuff out of the house. I don't want to have to go through fixing it up and getting it list ready and responding to inspections and all these things with the realtor. And so for him, it was like, if he could just get some of his stuff that was in the house shipped to Minnesota back to him and just be done with the house and just like wipe his hands clean, he was okay to take a little bit of a discount. So that's what he did. We bought this property for $290,000. It needed about $30,000 in work and it was worth $400 after we fixed it up. Now, was that like the most killer deal in the entire world? No, we still ended up making about 40 grand on it. But for him, he didn't have to fly to Arizona, go through all of his crap. He had some family members in Arizona that went there, packed up his stuff, got it shipped back to Minnesota. So he didn't have to deal with it. All the other junk he left. So he didn't have to, one, fly to Arizona, two, pack up his stuff or get all of his junk thrown away. Three, there was a lot of little things that needed to be fixed, just little plumbing stuff here, a lot of cosmetic things that needed to be fixed. So he was able to avoid those things as well. And then four, he didn't have to go to Arizona. Like that was like a big thing for him. Like when you're in your 80s and it's like 120 degrees out, like you don't really enjoy Arizona that much. So, and he didn't want to have the stuff move, get to him in Minnesota when it was freaking snowing either. So it was like this debacle of like, going in Arizona when it's 120 versus like moving in the winter when it's nice in Arizona and having all that stuff get there when it's snowing. Those type of sellers are my favorite because like you're just dealing with reasonable people. For those of you that actually do deals, what you start to realize after some time is like you don't need like these like ridiculously motivated people. You need reasonable sellers willing to sell for a reasonable price where you're going to make some money. You're not going to get a home run, steal the deal type deal. Reasonable, base hit deals. Like those are the deals that we like. And I'm happy to do those all day long.